lot of hours. I don't know exactly how to quantify that, but I would say that our scouts have full-time jobs, not part-time jobs.
What do you, in your estimation, what's the likelihood that the Magic tomorrow night only select 4 and 12, and that's all you do?
Tough to say. You know, everything's really fluid at the moment. So I think there's a possibility that we could select at 4 and 12. I think there's also a possibility that some or both of those picks could be in play. So our job over the next however many hours till the draft is to prioritize what we feel is the best opportunity for us, and then try to go ahead and capitalize on that.
Would you call the next 24 to 30 hours hectic, or how would you describe that?
Just busy, just very busy, and I think the key at this point in time is to have a good prioritization process, which is to make sure that all these different things that are coming in and out, we need to do a good job of making sure that we stick to our priorities and our principles.
How much do the events of the past week with Joel Embiid, to a lesser extent, Sarge, influence what you may have already had in your mind?
Yeah, I think it makes an unpredictable night even more unpredictable, is how I would categorize it.
Rob, back to you, Rob. What, obviously there's always pressure to produce and whatnot, and the last 2 years have obviously been a rebuilding process. Where do you think, does the pressure kind of amp up, if you will, come this season, given that you are expected to have more pieces in place, and obviously there's the natural deal with fans that they've got a patient level that can only go so far.
Sure, I think big thing for us is to just stay the course, continue to add to the team, continue to improve the team, and to do it in a fashion that allows us to show improvement, allows us to play in more meaningful games next season. But at the same time, we don't want to skip steps. We don't want to compromise our vision, which is to build a competitive team for a long time. So if there's an opportunity that's out there that will allow us to speed that up, great. If not, I think the onus is on us to continue to chip away and stay disciplined.
What's your philosophy on drafting injured big men?
Depends.
On what?
Depends on a lot of factors. Depends on a lot of factors. We treat every case and every circumstance different. So it's going to be all relative to the multitude of factors that are in play.
Has the team received Joel Embiid's medical reports?
I'm not going to comment on what information we have, but I will say that we do have information, and we're analyzing it, and we'll continue to look to gather more information leading up to tomorrow night.
Do you look at that in a vacuum as this is one player, this is one injury, or do you look at the history of big men with either foot issues or back issues? Do you look at that as well?
We're going to look at everything. That's our job. Our job is to look at everything, to look at, again, all the different factors, all the risk, the reward, and everything in between. And we got to make the best decision for our team. So whatever we feel that is, we'll go ahead and do that.
Are you looking for 2 players that can contribute now, or could this be one of your selections be somebody who you may not get for another year or 2 because of commitments to playing overseas or injuries?
Yeah, I think it's relative to who's on the board when we're picking. So we're not going to confine ourselves to we need someone who can contribute right away, or we need someone who maybe more of a long-term play. It's going to be a decision that's relative to what's available. So we're open to both.
Rob, how do you balance picking for need and picking for best player available? How do you balance that when you're in the room?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of it comes down to trying to accomplish the goals that we have. There's never going to be an easy decision to make. You're always going to have to make a call on a need or a fit or what have you. So it's a balancing act, and a lot of that I think plays into the overarching vision, which is to make sure all the different pieces fit one another and complement and help one another. So that's the strategy we'll use to try to make that decision.
Rob, if you and your
your staff seen Dante Exum play enough in order to make an educated decision on whether to draft him if he's available?
Yes.
In your mind, Rob, are other teams more willing to deal this year? Has there been more talk than what you've seen in the past?
You know, I'm not sure. I can't speak for the other teams. But I know that we've had a lot of discussions with teams. I think my guess would be most teams have had a lot of discussions with other teams. That's what happens this time of year. So I would categorize the chatter as appropriate for this time of year.
So from your perspective, you've been involved in a number of drafts. How does this one compare leading up to today with other drafts that you've been involved with in terms of chatter and, just...
I'd say about the same. Yeah, about the same. Yeah.
How strong is this draft relative to other drafts? There's talk this is the most deep draft since 2004?
To be determined. Ask me that in 3 to 4 years. I'll have a much better answer for you. I think every draft is relative, and I think a question to ask is we don't know. We don't know exactly what this draft will become, and the question is when will we know? And I don't have an answer for that. I think it's to be determined.
Rob, how much emphasis do you put on the individual workouts when you guys come in and when they come in to see you guys, and how do you avoid potentially overvaluing a workout with potentially years of college basketball footage or overseas footage with which to work?
Just try to use the right perspective. It is a valuable piece to the puzzle. It's not the only piece. So, any workout that we have, we try to make sure that we weigh that accordingly and we keep the right perspective in mind. But it is very important, more so for the just the time you get to spend with the players versus what they actually do on the court.
Rob, this is your and your staff's third draft together. How are you different? How's that experience helped you now than maybe 2 years ago when you were doing it for the first time?
More inside jokes. Everybody is just more comfortable with each other. The chemistry is better, as you would expect, just having been together for a longer period of time. So the group works very, very well together, and we're really proud of them.
How many people in all will be involved tomorrow night in the decision-making process that have been involved up to this point?
That's a question for Joel, because he's actually making the pick. No, quite a few, dozen or so, I would say.
How much input does Jacques have?
A lot of input. Yeah, Jacques and I are very much aligned in what our goals are and what our vision is, and what our objectives are. So he probably has more say than I do.
Rob, what do you look to accomplish when you bring in a prospect for a second workout that you didn't get to see in the first workout?
Yeah, a lot of different things. But the goal really is just to spend more time with the player. That's the real impetus for bringing someone back.
Has anyone sung in an interview yet? Is that, like Victor, I mean, that seemed like you said that separated him.
I don't think so. Maybe hummed, but I don't know about the song. I don't think so.
All right.
This franchise has signed an injured player before, and the backlash reaction from the fans, you weren't here, but people upstairs probably were. How much of that past history would come into play when it comes to...
Well, look, I think you always have to look at context and precedents and those types of things. At the same time, I think you got to treat everything on a case-by-case basis relative to that particular circumstance. So that'll be the lens through which we look at all these different things as it relates to whatever risk there may be in this draft.
What about when you guys were during the Dwight trade? There was all the Bynum talk, and you were sort of adamant you didn't want him because of the injuries, which turned out to be the right move. Will that play into the effect of this draft?
It could. Maybe not. A lot's, again, going to depend on the relativity of this particular circumstance.
How difficult is it to trade up?
It's difficult. Yeah, I think it is difficult. It's challenging. But I think it depends on where you're trying to move. Are you trying to move up a lot, a little? What are the pieces that you may be able to utilize to do that. So, again, it is a little bit case by case, depending on what different teams are looking for and what they need and what they want.
Would you be willing to trade down if the offer was?
Sure,
correct?
we're open to anything. I think we have to be. We have to be opportunistic, and we have to be willing to be flexible and creative and aggressive if need be.
Well, if you got 3 teams ahead of you in order, how difficult is it to determine which way they're gonna go? Last year Cleveland shocked everybody. Do you have a sense at all of which way
Well,
those
it's
are gonna
very, very difficult to discern because everybody lies to each other this time of year. So, your guess would be as good as mine.
I don't know about that.
Rob, how much does what happens tomorrow night affect what may happen in July? We've got some guys with non-guaranteed deals, other guys do qualifying offers. What role is tomorrow going to play in their futures?
I think a big role. I think everything's connected. So, the way we try to make decisions, one should lead to the next, should lead to the next, should lead to the next. And it's sort of a domino type of system. So it will impact things for sure, depending on how it shakes out and what we have on the roster at the conclusion of the draft.
So you've made no decisions with regard to some of those players yet?
Yeah, not yet. We got to get through the draft, and that'll, we hope, clarify maybe not everything, but the majority of things, hopefully.
Rob, how big is this draft in the process that you talked about?
It's important. Every draft's going to be important for us. We need to make sure we do a good job with the way we draft. So that's how I would categorize it. It's important.
Do you feel any sense of added pressure, given that, this draft has been pointed to for so long and we're now at 2 seasons without a playoff?
Yeah, not really, no. No, we just got to continue to do our job and continue to believe in our scouting process and believe in the type of players we want to represent this team and this community.
Rob, how encouraging is it that the 2 number 1 seeds in the playoffs, the Pacers and the Spurs, were built sort of organically, like you like to say, through the draft? And
yeah, it's encouraging. There are a lot of different ways, I think, to build a really competitive team. And, again, our job is to have a vision and try to execute our plan, but also have the flexibility and the wherewithal to adapt, and follow a different path if needed, or if that's the path that is created for us. So we got to be really flexible and adaptive, I think.
so if LeBron calls you guys, you're going to listen?
We'll get to free agency after the draft. And I can assure you that we'll explore every option that's available to us.
Also, is this draft, a year ago, everybody was very excited about this draft and this crop of recruits or whatever, are you as excited now as you were a year ago? Some people think it's sort of taken a hit with Embiid being hurt.
Well, who was everybody?
Just
Who was everybody last year that was saying the draft's so good?
the experts.
Well, who are the experts?
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, I think to be determined. We'll see how this draft shakes out. Ask me in 3 or 4 years. I'll have a much better answer for you.
You've brought in prospects that may or may not get drafted. Is that specifically in thinking for Summer League, or is it also for your D-League affiliation now? And how does that, I guess, kind of affect your thinking going forward?
Yeah, all of the above. All of the above. So we bring in guys that we're looking at to draft this year. We may bring in guys that may be a little out of our range, but we may be trying to get another pick to draft. We may be looking at guys for our D-League team or our Summer League roster or training camp. So it's really a combination of all those things.
Rob, how much interest has Aaron Aflalo drawn on the trade market?
Again, not going to comment specifically on things of that nature, but I can tell you that our players have value around the league, and we take pride in that. And it's our job to listen. It's every team's job to listen and to explore ways to make their team better. And, we need to do the same.
What should Magic fans' expectations be for your second lottery pick, 12?
Good question. Someone who can contribute. Someone who can play a role. Someone who buys into the culture and the identity that we're trying to build here, and someone who's going to just compete their butt off.
When you're having those trade talks, you look at the Dwight trade, you look at the Reddick trade, I think the experts, as Mike would say, the Magic won those trades. Is it becoming maybe more difficult for you to make a deal as they see how successful you were with two major acquisitions there?
I think every trade's hard to make, because there's so many different factors involved, different voices, opinions, different objectives. So I think anytime you try to make a trade, it's going to be difficult.
Can you update us on the progress, if any, you've made regarding the D-League team getting a coach or a general manager or anybody installed there?
Yeah, that process is moving along. I don't want to say at a snail's pace, but it's moving slowly. And once we get through the draft, we'll start to accelerate that a little bit. But our hope is to try to have some more definition as it relates to the staff by the end of July, early August, somewhere in there.
Everyone good? All right, thank you. We'll
That's all
see
you
you
guys
tomorrow.
got?
You got